Hey there, it's Rachel with Rachel Freebairn Fitness. And here's the second part of my Heart Healthy for Beginners series. The first part, we talked about how heart disease is the leading cause of death in the US for both men and women. And the good news is that 80% of heart disease can be prevented by just making simple lifestyle changes, including your diet. However, I know there's still some confusion out there about what we should or shouldn't be eating. So, what I wanted to do was give you 5 myths of a heart healthy diet and then bust them for you. So, the first myth is that a low fat diet prevents heart disease. And that's not exactly true. While a diet that's high in saturated or trans fats can increase the risk of heart disease, other types of fats are actually good for your heart. So, choosing the right types of fat is important for reducing the risk of heart disease or stroke. Unsaturated fats like monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, when eaten in moderation, that's the key, can help decrease blood levels of bad cholesterol. So, the second myth is that a diet low in cholesterol prevents heart disease. And while high blood cholesterol is a major factor for heart disease, other factors besides your diet can affect your cholesterol. And that includes things like your weight, your level of physical activity, your age, and your gender. So, eating a low cholesterol diet is a good start, but also paying attention to the other risk factors can raise blood cholesterol, that can raise your blood cholesterol, will also help prevent heart disease. So, the third myth is that salt doesn't play a factor, only fat does. And that's absolutely not true. Salt plays a big factor. Eating a diet that's low in salt and sodium can help reduce blood pressure, which is also a major factor for heart attacks. So, the American Heart Association recommends that adults consume less than 2,300 milligrams of salt per day, which is like a teaspoon of salt. And ideally, we want to limit it to no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium, which is like two-thirds a teaspoon of salt. That's probably the hardest part of a heart healthy diet because there's so much sodium in our foods today, especially when you're going out to a restaurant. But so when you're trying to reduce your sodium, don't think you have to be deprived of flavor. So what you can do instead is add some sodium-free spices or herbs to your food to increase or improve the flavors of boring foods or foods that you don't like. So the fourth myth is that trans fat-free foods are heart healthy. And that's not necessarily true. According to the FDA's label regulations, if a serving of food has 0.5 grams or less of trans fats, they don't have to put that on the label. They can label your food as trans fat free. And some manufacturers are getting around that by replacing trans fats with saturated fats in order to, change the flavor but not necessarily change the fat content. So just be aware of that and be sure you're carefully reading your labels of packaged or processed foods. And then the fifth and final myth that I'm going to talk about are that sugars need to be eliminated from your diet. And that's just not true. You do need to make good food choices when it comes to your sugar intake. So even though they both contain sugar, fresh fruits is obviously a better choice than, say, soda. Just choose to focus on foods that have additional nutrients. So go for something like fresh whole foods instead of just empty calories or junk food. And if you have diabetes, or you're trying to lose weight, keep track of those extra calories, those empty calories, the sugars, the carbohydrates that you're consuming, especially in drinks, because eating and drinking too many foods that contain those sugars can cause issues with your blood sugars and or lead to weight gain. So those are just 5 myths that I wanted to bust for you today about heart healthy diets. And I hope that helps you understand it a little more so you can make better food choices when it comes to living a heart healthy life. And in the next video in this series, I'm going to give you some of my top heart healthy food picks and why I love them. So thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys soon.